I'm honestly just ready to kind of fast forward into the offseason now. I'm ready. I'm ready for next season. I'm ready to just kind of restart. But we can't restart without a new offensive coordinator. Eagles are ramping up their search right now. Obviously, Patullo is out of the job, bro. When I got the Patullo news, it might have been the happiest day I've had probably all season. Like, it's the best I have felt all season was getting the Patullo news that he was fired. But now that that spot is open, I mean, this is honestly like the hottest, seems like the hottest market for coaches that we've had in a while. Just a lot of guys, a lot of like big name coaches that are looking for new jobs. John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin now stepping away from the Steelers, even though he's probably retiring from coaching. Cliff Kingsbury, Mike McDaniel, even Stefanski, being the big name that he is. It's a very hot market for coaching right now. Plenty of names to choose from for the newest offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, if I'm looking at this list, right, guys who are available, if I'm looking at names, if I'm looking at coaching candidates for that offensive coordinator job in Philly, three big names come to mind. Well, really four, but three main names. My top three candidates for offensive coordinator in Philly, in order, is Brian Daboll, Cliff Kingsbury, and Mike McDaniel. Now, I know Brian Daboll and Mike McDaniel are at the top of the list right now for the Eagles, but I honestly think Cliff Kingsbury should be higher on their list. Now, I know Cliff Kingsbury, he has expressed an interest in being a head coach, but so has Brian Daboll, so is Mike McDaniel. So I honestly think Cliff Kingsbury should be getting a little more love on that hierarchy list for the Eagles, but those are at least my top three. Brian Daboll, Cliff Kingsbury, Mike McDaniel, all in that order. All have proven to be creative offensive play callers. I think Brian Daboll and Cliff Kingsbury have more experience dealing with and developing dual threat quarterbacks as opposed to Mike McDaniel, but all have shown capable of utilizing and really maximizing the talent within an offense, the talent around their quarterback to the really, to the best of their abilities, leading to winning seasons, under the circumstances of what they had. So I definitely think those three guys, any one of those three guys, I think would do a great job in Philly. But I do think Brian Daboll and Cliff Kingsbury would be a little more suitable for the Eagles as opposed to Mike McDaniel, just because of their experience in dealing and winning with dual threat quarterbacks and developing dual threat quarterbacks. First, starting with Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll honestly makes the most sense for the OC job in Philly out of my top candidates, out of the top candidates for the Eagles. I think Brian Daboll would be the perfect fit for the Eagles. One, he has a history, he has the most familiarity with the Eagles organization. He's coached Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith at Alabama. That was the year that Alabama won the Natty, led to a Natty run. Jalen Hurts was the Sugar Bowl offensive MVP on that Natty run. Sugar Bowl offensive MVP on that Natty run. He coached Saquon Barkley with the Giants. That year, Saquon Barkley had over 1,600 scrimmage yards, was one of the best running backs in the NFL. And then he also coached with Nick Sirianni on the Kansas City Chiefs staff in 2012, where Daboll was the offensive coordinator and Nick Sirianni was the receivers coach. So he is already familiar with not only certain guys with key players and personnel in this organization, but he's also familiar with the team as a whole from having to see them twice a year, being the head coach of the Giants. I think that's a big selling point for Brian Daboll, the fact that he not only has experience in coaching two of our most important players on offense, three of our most important players on offense. He also has experience coaching and working with our head coach, but then he also has experience in terms of what it's like to face this Eagles team, being on the opposing side of the Eagles team. So he can think from that sort of perspective as well, from when he was the Giants coach and having to play the Eagles twice a year. I think Brian Daboll is honestly the perfect choice for the Eagles offensive coordinator. Now, I think the only negative to Brian Daboll getting the OC job for the Eagles this coming season is the fact that we probably wouldn't have him for very long. Like it probably wouldn't be a move for the future, just because with Brian Dabble in this offense will perform at a high level. It'll most likely get back to the Super Bowl again, and it'll make Brian Dabble one of the one of the top or the top head coaching candidate for the 2027 season. So with Brian Dabble in this offense, the offense would be so good that we most likely wouldn't be able to hang on to Brian Dabble for probably longer than a season, more than a season. I would be shocked if we were able to hold on to Brian Dabble for 2 seasons, let alone for the next few years, like what it looks like we'll have Vic Fangio for. That's the only downside, is that we wouldn't have Brian Dabble for long, but while we have him, I mean, it would be an unstoppable unit. But Brian Dabble, something else I think that makes Brian Dabble the perfect choice for the Eagles OC position is the fact that is you know something else that I think makes Brian Dabble the perfect choice for offensive coordinator for the Eagles is his history in working with dual threat quarterbacks, his history in maximizing their ability. I honestly think Brian Dabble, out of all of the guys in this OC pool, OC candidate pool, I think he would be able to get the most out of Jalen Hurts. I think he might be able to get the most out of Jalen Hurts because of his ability, because of his history with working with dual threat quarterbacks. Like Brian Dabble's history, he coached Josh Allen from 2018 to 2021 when he was the offensive coordinator for the Bills. During that time, Josh Allen developed from a rookie into an MVP candidate. 2 seasons with over 4,400 yards through the air and over 35 touchdowns through the air. He also coached Daniel Jones from 2022 to 2024, when, of course, he was the head coach for the Giants. During that time, Daniel Jones had a season where he threw for over 3,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, a 92 passer rating, and led the Giants to a divisional playoff run where they beat the Vikings. In that game where they beat the Vikings on that big stage, Daniel Jones really had himself one of the best games of his career, over 300 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. And then honestly, Daniel Jones that year looked like their franchise quarterback of the future. Like Brian Dabble was able to maximize Daniel Jones's ability, similar to Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen is the only other coach we've seen get that sort of production out of Daniel Jones. And if Brian Dabble can do what he did with a young Josh Allen and Daniel Jones, imagine what he could do with Jalen Hurts in this offense. Like Jalen Hurts is better than both of those guys, in my opinion. I know Josh Allen is arguable, but we can at least say he clears Daniel Jones. If Brian Dabble could do what he did with Daniel Jones and a young Josh Allen, who also had limited talent around them, imagine what Brian Dabble could do with Jalen Hurts in a Super Bowl winning offense. Imagine what Brian Dabble could do with a Super Bowl MVP in Jalen Hurts, who has two receivers who went for over 1,000 yards this year, with a reigning offensive player of the year in Saquon Barkley, with a all-pro caliber offensive line with guys like Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, even though he had a down year this year, really the whole offensive line struggling with injuries. But imagine what Brian Dabble could do with this unit, considering what he was able to do with the past units that he has had, with less talented groups that he has had. I think Brian Dabble in Philly could be dangerous. Could definitely be dangerous. And honestly, I think if it's not Brian Dabble, I think another great candidate for OC, someone the Eagles should really be looking at more, is Cliff Kingsbury. I honestly think the Eagles are sleeping on Cliff Kingsbury right now in terms of their targets for the OC job. I think Cliff Kingsbury, aside from Brian Dabble, Cliff Kingsbury would be the best choice for the OC job aside from Brian Dabble. Cliff Kingsbury would be the best choice for the OC job aside from Brian Dabble. I think aside from Brian Dabble, Cliff Kingsbury could run the most lethal offense in Philly. And honestly, if we look at Cliff Kingsbury, I know I said Brian Dabble is a guy who could get the most out of Jalen Hurts, but if there's anyone else who has shown the ability to maximize and properly develop a dual threat quarterback, it's Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury has one of the best track records when it comes to quarterback development, especially dual threat quarterback development. And really, in that Cliff Kingsbury track record, he coached Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. During his tenure at Texas A&M, Johnny Manziel was the first ever freshman Heisman winner, a legendary who had a legendary season with over 3,000 passing yards and over 1,000 rushing yards. He then coached Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, developing Patrick Mahomes into just one of the most dangerous college quarterbacks as well, setting multiple college records, over 11,000 total passing yards, over 93 total touchdowns. He then coached Kyle Murray in Arizona when he was the head coach for the Cardinals. During that stint, Kyler Murray was an offensive rookie of the year. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler, and he led the Cardinals to their first playoff appearance in 2021, really ending a playoff drought for the Cardinals. Then, most recently, he, of course, coached Jaden Daniels last year in 2024, during which Jaden Daniels was not only the offensive rookie of the year, but he also had a legendary, historic offensive rookie of the year season, really solidifying himself as the greatest rookie quarterback to ever play the game of football, which also led the Commanders to their first NFC championship appearance since 1992. So wherever Cliff Kingsbury is, good things happen for those respective quarterbacks. Wherever Cliff Kingsbury is, the offense improves. Wherever Cliff Kingsbury is, the quarterback improves. The quarterback takes huge strides in their careers. I think Cliff Kingsbury would do an amazing job in Philly. I think Cliff Kingsbury would no doubt be able to maximize the ability of Jalen Hurts as a dual threat quarterback. And it scares me. It would honestly be scary because if you look at the offenses Cliff Kingsbury has coached up in the past, this would be the most talented offense he has ever coached in his entire career. Like Cliff Kingsbury's track record, coaching Johnny Manziel to a historic freshman Heisman winner season, coaching Patrick Mahomes during his stint at Texas Tech, multiple college records, crazy video game numbers through the air through an air raid offense, coaching Kyler Murray to an offensive rookie of the year season, leading him to be a 2-time Pro Bowler, leading the Cardinals to their first playoff run in 2021 in years, coaching Jaden Daniels to a historic rookie season, getting to a historic offensive rookie of the year season, Jaden Daniels solidifying himself as the greatest rookie quarterback to ever play the game. If Cliff Kingsbury could do that with those guys, considering the offenses that they had around them, there's no doubt he would be able to coach Jalen Hurts to another MVP candidate season, maybe possibly even MVP season, and to a Super Bowl, considering how talented this offense is. 2 number 1 receivers, 1 elite running back, a elite offensive line, with this year taken with a grain of salt, a top 5 tight end. Like, there was no telling what Cliff Kingsbury could do with this offense, with Jalen Hurts in this offense, given his track record with quarterbacks. And then obviously another name who would make a great OC for the Eagles is Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel obviously is super high on the Eagles' radar right now. I think Mike McDaniel would be a great OC for the Eagles. I don't think he would necessarily be a great OC for Jalen Hurts specifically. At least not as good of an OC as Brian Daboll and Cliff Kingsbury could be for Jalen Hurts. I think Mike McDaniel would do a great job in utilizing the talent in this offense, as he has shown in the past. You know, he knows how to exploit the, especially when it comes to receivers, and he knows how to exploit the talent of his skill players, as he's shown in Miami, the way he was able to produce with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki when he was there, you know, and now the speed that they had this year with A Chain and Raheem Mostert. Like, Mike McDaniel knows how to utilize talent, but he doesn't have as much experience in working and developing dual threat quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts, like what Brian Daboll and what Cliff Kingsbury have shown capable of. So I think Mike McDaniel would be a great OC candidate. He wouldn't be as high up on my list as what the Eagles have from him right now. I think he's top 3 100%. But in my opinion, Brian Daboll and Cliff Kingsbury should be the only names above him in that regard. But another name, honestly, that I think about who could be a great offensive coordinator for the Eagles is Jason Avant. Jason Avant was a receiver for the Eagles in the early 2000s to 2010s era of football. You know, he was, you know, he and as a former receiver, he knows effective route concepts like the back of his hand, something that Kevin Patullo and the scheme from this past season vastly struggled with. Jason Avant, with his experience as a receiver, he knows effective route concepts like the back of his hand. He knows what route concepts hurt certain coverages, certain defenses. But then he also knows what it's like to play with a talented, dynamic dual threat quarterback in the offense. Like, he knows what a talented offense looks like around a dual threat quarterback from his experience in playing with Donovan McNabb and playing with Michael Vick. He also played for Andy Reid, one of the best offensive play callers the game has ever seen, arguably the best offensive play caller in the game right now. So he knows what a creative offensive game plan looks like from playing under Andy Reid. And I think Jason Avant, honestly, Jason Avant is probably one of the smartest, like, retired football players right now, who can just tell you everything that is going on the field, who can, just from watching film, can tell you what receivers are thinking, what a quarterback should be thinking, you know, what everyone's job is on this specific play, what their responsibilities are. I think Jason Avant would be really would be a slept on candidate for the offensive coordinator position as well. I think Jason Avant is one of those under radar names that a lot of people don't really think about. I think Jason Avant would do a great job as the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, given his experience as a system receiver, you know, working a receiver that has played with a lot of talent on the field, a guy who is very familiar, is an expert in route concepts and what can hurt a defense, a guy who knows what a creative scheme looks like from his time playing under Andy Reid in Philly, and his experience in playing with dual threat quarterbacks. What an offense should look like around a dual threat quarterback from his experience in playing with McNabb and Michael Vick. So I think Jason Avant would be a good name to consider for the OC job as well. But the fact that the Eagles are hiring another offensive coordinator, their 5th offensive coordinator, I believe, since 2020, I think is insane. Jalen Hurts has never had the same offensive coordinator more than once in his career. Like, if we're looking at since college, this is Jalen Hurts. This year will be Jalen Hurts' 11th offensive coordinator. 11th offensive coordinator. 11th offensive coordinator in 10 years. He is a new offensive coordinator every single year. No other quarterback can say that they have had to go through as much change in their OC, in their OC room, in their OC position, as Jalen Hurts has had. Like, going on his 11th straight year of a different OC, including college, Like the fact that Jalen Hurts has an argument for top 5 quarterback in the NFL, you all know, like, bro, Jalen Hurts is going on his 11th offensive coordinator in around 10 years of playing football since college. 11th offensive coordinator since college, only having the same offensive coordinator one time, which led to, of course, a Super Bowl run under Shane Steichen. The fact that you all know what I think about Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the NFL, but he at least this season had an argument, a general argument, which was the general consensus amongst most football fans. He had an argument for top 5. The fact that Jalen Hurts has an argument for top 5, considering the many changes he has had at that offensive coordinator position, I think tells you how good Jalen Hurts is as a quarterback. Like the fact that Jalen Hurts has had the flashes and the accomplishments, the accolades that he has had during his time in the NFL, while never having the same offensive coordinator more than once, that should honestly tell you how good of a quarterback Jalen Hurts is. I should honestly tell you how good of a quarterback Jalen Hurts is. Like, we've seen quarterbacks in the NFL accomplish great things. Lamar Jackson, 2 MVPs. Like, Josh Allen, an MVP, all pro. Crazy video game-like numbers during the regular season. Multiple seasons with over 4,000 yards passing. Patrick Mahomes, 3-time champion, 2-time MVP. Like we've seen quarterbacks in the NFL accomplish amazing things, but all of those guys have never had to deal with the change that Jalen Hurts has had to deal with during his career as an Eagle, let alone just his career as a football player, as a quarterback, from college, from all the way to Alabama, to Oklahoma, to now with the Philadelphia Eagles. No other quarterback, regardless, like, even considering all the amazing things that they have done on this national stage, have had to do with the change that Jalen Hurts has had to deal with. But even in spite of that, Jalen Hurts is still in the room with those guys. Jalen Hurts is still in most conversations with those guys. Jalen Hurts still has a conversation for top 5. It has an argument for placement amongst those guys, in spite of never having the same offensive coordinator more than once, in spite of all the change that he has had to deal with from the coaching position. I think the fact that Jalen Hurts is going on his 11th year of having a different offensive coordinator, the fact that he has only had the same offensive coordinator in the NFL one time and has still been able to accomplish what he has accomplished, I think says a lot about who Jalen Hurts is as a quarterback, as a competitor, and what he could be once he does have more consistency in that offensive coordinator position when it comes to coaching, when it comes to play calling. Like, honestly, Jalen Hurts, like, if we're looking at this objectively, Jalen Hurts wins too much to have the same offensive coordinator every single year. He wins too much. Jalen Hurts is so effective at the quarterback position. He is such a gifted winner that it makes his offensive coordinators look too good. Like, he gets his offensive coordinators hired as head coaches more often than any other quarterback in the NFL. Like, if you want to be a head coach in the NFL, you need to be Jalen Hurts' coordinator. Like, the quickest way to being a head coach in the NFL is being Jalen Hurts' offensive coordinator, because you know you're going to put up over 11 wins on a season. You're going to put up 11 to over 11 wins on a season, make the playoffs, and possibly get to a Super Bowl. Most likely get to a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts wins too much to have the same offensive coordinator every single year. Jalen Hurts has gotten more guys hired as head coaches in the NFL than any other quarterback in the NFL. Jalen Hurts honestly is a golden ticket for aspiring head coaches in the NFL. He is a golden ticket. If you are Jalen Hurts' offensive coordinator for 1 year, you will most likely be set for a head coaching job the following season. That's how effective Jalen Hurts is at the quarterback position. That's how much of a winner Jalen Hurts is at the quarterback position. That's how efficient Jalen Hurts is at the quarterback position. Like, it's honestly crazy. No other quarterback can say that they are so much of a winner, that they are too much of a winner to have the same offensive coordinator in back-to-back seasons for more than one season, every single season. No other quarterback can say that. No other quarterback can say that. But, speaking of future moves, in terms of Jalen Hurts, this offense, I and looking at just how much of a winner Jalen Hurts is, it honestly just makes me more upset at AJ Brown for the way that he played and approached this game against the 49ers in the wild card round. Like, AJ Brown it looked like AJ Brown played with absolutely no heart in this game against the 49ers. He didn't play with it looked like he played with very little effort against the 49ers, and honestly made Jalen Hurts look bad. Like, the way AJ Brown performed against the 49ers, it made Jalen Hurts look bad as a quarterback. Even though Jalen Hurts was accurate, even though he was throwing through tight windows, even though his ball placement for the most part was exactly where it needed to be for AJ Brown to make a play, AJ Brown did not execute. AJ Brown did not make the play. AJ Brown looked so bad against the 49ers. It made my QB1 look like a scrub. It made outside fans, a lot of whom didn't even watch the game, it made them think it was Jalen Hurts' fault that the Eagles lost. AJ Brown was so bad in this game, it made Jalen Hurts look bad. And that's honestly what makes me even more mad in looking back at this game. And in light of like just kind of how this season progressed in the locker room, in light of how AJ Brown played against the 49ers, not just the fact that he didn't execute on the ball, but the fact that it looked like he didn't really have the fact that it looked like he wasn't really playing with effort. It looked like he wasn't really playing with much heart in this game as well. I honestly wouldn't be upset if the Eagles traded AJ Brown this offseason. I wouldn't be upset. I'm not saying the Eagles should. I'm looking at the positives in the potential move of AJ Brown departing from Philly. Like, I think if I wouldn't be upset if the Eagles traded AJ Brown this offseason in light of how he looked against the 49ers. The fact that he didn't look like he was playing with much effort, with much heart. He wasn't executing. Just kind of the distraction he was this season. I wouldn't be upset if the Eagles traded him this offseason. I'm not saying they should, but I also wouldn't be upset if they traded him this offseason. I think if the Eagles traded AJ Brown, whether it's for draft capital, whether it's for, some other assets for the offense, I don't think the Eagles would be at a loss without AJ Brown. Like, if the Eagles were to trade AJ Brown and re-sign Jahan Dotson or sign Alec Pierce, who's a free agent this year, I think trading AJ Brown in that circumstance would allow Jalen Hurts to play more free. Like, I think trading AJ Brown, not having to worry about forcing AJ Brown the ball to make sure he's happy, I think would also allow Jalen Hurts to play more free without a weight on his shoulder and without an obligation. Just allowing him to play his game, allowing him to spread the ball around allowing him to spread the ball around in the flow of the game. Like, we've seen Jalen Hurts play free football before, and it usually results in a Super Bowl, in a Super Bowl trip, in a Super Bowl appearance. a Super Bowl ring. I think trading AJ Brown would allow Jalen Hurts to play with less of an obligation and just play his natural game of football, play more free football, utilizing more talent on the offense as well. Like I do see a positive in trading AJ Brown. I think another positive that could come from the Eagles trading AJ Brown is Devontae Smith's development. Like Devontae Smith, a guy who has never complained despite having diminishing, targets, because of AJ Brown's presence. I think trading AJ Brown would allow Devontae Smith to grow as a receiver. Like Devontae Smith is obviously a receiver one caliber guy. I think now that moving Devontae Smith into a prime receiver one role would allow him to develop more as a receiver in a similar fashion that we saw Jackson Smith and Jigba be able to develop this season. Like I think Devontae Smith would be able to develop in a similar fashion as JSN because he would have more room to breathe and operate in this offense. Like JSN had more elbow room to breathe and operate in the offense this year. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba last year was the third option on this offense through the air because of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. It was one of the best talented offensive trios in the NFL that year, with that bunch on the field at the same time. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, as we're seeing now, was not able to reach his full potential with those guys in the scheme. We're seeing now that JSN has a much higher ceiling, obviously, than Tyler Lockett, but also really DK Metcalf. We're seeing JSN really erupt as an offensive player of the year candidate this year because of the room that he had to develop in this offense this year, having a bigger role in the offense this year. I think trading AJ Brown would allow Devontae Smith to take a similar step, because if Devontae Smith can look like the receiver one he has looked like, the playmaker he has looked like with AJ Brown on the field and in the scheme, with the limited targets that he has had, imagine what Devontae Smith could look like where now he is the number one option on the offense, where now he is getting those number one level targets in the offense, where now he has a bigger role, more room to grow in the offense. I think Devontae Smith could honestly take a similar step forward in production next season without AJ Brown on the Eagles as what we saw Jackson Smith and Jigba, the step we saw JSN take this year without DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in Seattle. I honestly think Devontae Smith could have a JSN level progression this offseason and in the 2026 season without, with AJ Brown not being on the team. I think we could see a similar level of production, a similar level of evolution in his game. Because honestly, I think Devontae Smith with AJ Brown on the field has been a better receiver than what JSN was when he had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on the field. Devontae Smith was a better player in an offense that had AJ Brown and Saquon Barkley than I think what JSN was last season in an offense that had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I think trading AJ Brown would allow Devontae Smith to take. I think in an offense without AJ Brown, I think Devontae Smith could be an offensive player of the year caliber player, similar to how JSN is clearly an offensive player of the year caliber player in an offense without DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I definitely think Devontae Smith can take that same sort of stride, can have that same sort of evolution and development as what JSN has had this season with having a bigger role in the offense. But that's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms, and I will be back later on with more shameless takes.